Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined in the studio today by Craig Burley. Lots going on today. Later on in the show, I'll be reacting to those controversial quotes from Richard Pochettino, but we'll kick things off by reflecting on the Champions League playoff draw that was made today. There it is in all of its glory. Galatasaray, Juventus, Monaco, PSG, Dortmund, Atalanta, Karabakh, Newcastle, Olympiacos by Leverkusen, Bodo Glimt take on Inter, and it's Club Brugge against Atletico Madrid. The first leg of those ties will be on the 17th and 18th. Also, of course, that draw is thrown up. Benfica against Real Madrid, a rematch of what we saw took place obviously just 48 hours ago. Such a dramatic win for Benfica. That goalkeeper goal, of course, seeing them through 4-2. After the game, interesting stuff from Real Madrid players, the big boys speaking. Bellingham, Benfica had more fighting spirit. We had so much talent and players that can produce magic out of nothing. But if you don't do the basics, you'll be punished. Kylian Mbappe as well speaking out. He, of course, got a brace. It's not about tactics. It's not about us lacking quality. It's about playing with more desire to win than your opponents. It was a disgrace. Benfica could have been 5-1 up by half-time and nobody would have been surprised. They were so much better than us. We can't keep doing this day on, day off thing. It's not what champions do. For more on this, let's welcome in, shall we? In Spain, Alex Kirkland is with us. Nedum joins us as well. Craig, Stevie, very vocal about it yesterday, saying as a professional, the worst thing you can do is come out and admit that the team weren't trying. Yet we've got Arbelow on the other side going, blame everything on me. Where are we in this Real Madrid world? It just seems everyone is just talking.
Well, they're not.
It's just hot air.
They're not admitting the team isn't trying. They are insinuating, and they're obviously. And I would imagine Jude Bellingham and Kylian Mbappe are not including themselves in that.
Yes.
Certainly not Kylian Mbappe, but I would suppose Jude Bellingham is throwing the mud at other players. So if you're in the dressing room, you're saying, well, is that me he's talking about? I mean, maybe, there's no doubt some of them had a bad game.
Yep.
But generally, if you come out and talk about attitude and desire, you're generally not talking about yourself. So you are throwing all that dirt at your teammates, and it just and I think that's the kind of chat that you do have in the dressing room, and it happens all the time. I mean, you go in at half-time in a game that's going, and Nedum will tell you go in any game and it's not going well, you'll have that chat. Maybe it'll be about tactics, maybe it'll be about some mistakes or set pieces, but if it's a continuation of a story, there should be a frank discussion in the dressing room amongst the players and the staff about attitude, about who's not doing it, about who needs to pull the finger out, about who may be hiding a little bit under the pressure and not wanting the ball, because that happens. Some players can make it difficult for you. This sounds strange, I know, but some players can make it difficult for you to find them with a pass if they're having a hard time. We call it hiding in the game. And it goes on and it happens. I've seen it, particularly when big crowds turn on players. And what we have here is a culmination of a lot of things at Real Madrid that can be dispelled somewhat at the weekend when they play, I think it's Rayo Vallecano, in the early kickoff on Sunday. But certainly off the back of the chat with Xabi Alonso, off the back with the supposed dressing room unrest with Xabi Alonso, we kind of at least thought that part of it was gone.
Yeah.
We could maybe, the fact that he was the blame game. So we kind of thought, well, that part's gone. Now we can get on with just the football and the togetherness and the rolling the sleeves up. Well, it seems not. It seems that when bad results occur, and midweek was a bad result, the blame game is alive and well at the Bernabeu, and Xabi Alonso's not around.
No, he's sitting back loving it. His stock is going up with every game.
He's sitting back going,
absolutely.
This is what I'm dealing with.
Nedum, it's interesting, Craig brings up that dressing room dynamic. Considering how bad Real Madrid have been at points this season, you imagine that there has been conversations within the team, considering the experience of these players. What does it then take for a player to come out and speak to the media about it? And then how does the dressing room react to someone making this so public?
I think what Craig said has reminded me of so many times in my career where, for example, like the guys were saying there, it's not what champions do. It's not what professionals do. I think if you play a game of football and in that first half, the effort isn't there, the desire's not there, and you're being outrun, you're being outmatched, like sometimes you get in at half time and the frustration is so large from so many people that they will shout, they will rant, they will rave, they'll be throwing boots down on the ground, and they'll be showing that level of passion because ultimately, as a professional, it's not just about letting everyone else just like outrun you. You know, I'll let them have their way. You've got to be more committed and you've got to battle. Doesn't matter whether you're a team that's at the top of the league or at the bottom of the league. That is a foundation. You know, kids are doing that in like youth football now. So why would you not do it as a professional? And I think as I listen to, also I see Mbappe talking there, as I see Bellingham talking there, you know, it's all very, very general. And the only way I can sort of respect that in my mind is if in that locker room, they've been very specific. Because if you talk in those general terms, people will be inferring, well, is he talking about me? Because I tried. Well, how about this guy over here? He didn't. He must have tried. Did he not try? You know, make it direct. Have an environment to whereby these people hold themselves accountable. And I think that is one of the big measures of success. A manager will do that, but in the best scenarios, like the players will do it themselves. So I'd like to think that Bellingham has been in that locker room or dressing room and said it a few times when things haven't been good enough. And he's mentioned people directly, because I think at some point you do need to have that clash as such. Because otherwise you can't really move forward, because as soon as people start moving in different directions, I think your time's up.
This feels like a game of fill in the blanks, Alex. What have the Madrid media filled it with?
Well, it also feels like we've had this conversation around Real Madrid for so long now, Dan, doesn't it? You know, forget Xabi Alonso, go back to Carlo Ancelotti. The talk around him was that the players weren't working hard enough. He couldn't do it. That's why Alonso came in. It's 3 coaches now where you have still the same kind of conversation around, are the players working hard enough off the ball, dressing room unrest, and Arbeloa was supposed to be coming in to solve those problems. And it's really notable, I think, listening to Arbeloa in every single press conference so far, he has gone out of his way to really overtly praise these players. And of course, managers do that, but really going above and beyond, I think, talking about Mbappe and Bellingham and Vinicius, he clearly feels that that's the strategy to get these players back on side. You asked about the reaction. I mean, the reaction to this latest defeat against Benfica was kind of just, I think, a little bit of surprise, because people here felt like they were on the way back. The turnaround had started, that after that Villarreal result in La Liga, that they were getting on the right track. And all of a sudden, it's almost like back to square one. And now I think there's a real worry about, well, where does this season go from here? You know, is it going off the rails again? Because Arbeloa, like I say, had that dodgy start in the Copa del Rey. They got knocked out of the Cup. But after that, it looked like he was starting to put something together and the players were starting to buy in. And here we are, like I say, right back to square one.
Remember when it unravelled for Xavi at Barcelona? Or as it was starting to unravel after a successful season where they won La Liga. And part of that was dressing room unrest. Part of that was the blame game. Remember the problems with Lewandowski and Xavi. Remember Ilkay Gundogan coming out after I think it was the first Clásico of the season and talking about players, particularly youngsters, not showing enough emotion after the game. Blaming Ronald Araujo in Paris for a bad challenge and a red card publicly. And well, in all fairness to him, he did name him, which these guys haven't named anybody. But he named Ronald Araujo, and it really was pushing the dressing room to cracking and creaking point. And it did. It did, and he lost his job. And it just feels a little bit, it doesn't quite feel like that, but when you start throwing your teammates under the bus, and you've not, as Nedum said, if you've not addressed it in the dressing room, because if that was me, I'd be annoyed. I'd even be annoyed if Kylian Mbappe had said to me to my face, that's not good enough, you need to do this, you need to try, you need to work harder. And then had he gone to the press and insinuated it was people, I'd still have been annoyed.
Right.
But I'd be even more annoyed if he'd just gone out there and thrown mud.
Say it to my face, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, just keep it in the dressing room. Accountability. When I was at Chelsea and Celtic, when I was at Chelsea with Frank, when I was at Celtic with the team that won the title, with Larsson and Lambert, who'd won the Champions League just 6 months before, and all these guys, there was accountability. And that helped us get over the line under all the pressure. Because we were under immense pressure. Rangers had won 9 league titles in a row. But we had the accountability. I remember it. Henrik Larsson, one of the greatest strikers of European football in his day. The players would point the finger at him. You're not doing this. Paul Lambert, you're not. Burley, you're not doing this. Alan Stubbs, Tommy, it didn't matter who it was. When it was going wrong, there was accountability. And I don't remember any of the boys going to the press and saying, so-and-so in the dressing room's not doing it. We sorted it out in the training ground, we sorted it out in the dressing room, and we took it on the field, and then we tried to do our job. I don't like the insinuation from players about teammates not doing it, right? That's not something you talk to the press about. If the press in Spain or elsewhere want to accuse the Real Madrid players of having no desire. That's their job. That's an opinion. You don't want a teammate coming out and after a bad result, and that's what it was, a bad result. It's not like the whole season's gone, and basically saying, this dressing room, you just don't know what you're going to get from them.
Right.
Because they're so up and down, they don't care. That's when you can start to lose a dressing room and people start, questioning your loyalty.
I had a manager who once told me, some people, when they go into attack, it's like they're sprinting downhill, but in defence, it's like they're running back up that hill carrying extra weight. If the pitch is flat, you can have the desire to try and do both things. And yes, say defending isn't, say, the perfect skill for a lot of the attackers at Real Madrid and elsewhere around the league, but you do the best that you can. And I think if they get it right from the front, it's easy to get it right behind. It's easy to get it right at the back, and it's easy for the goalkeeper. But for when other people aren't necessarily pulling their weight, then you end up being in this position whereby it is like one game on, one game off. Because when it clicks, as we saw with PSG all those years ago, it looks amazing. But then when it doesn't click, teams can have so much joy against you. And I think Real Madrid conceding 4 the other day kind of sums that up.
Alex, just making it about me for a moment. When I was obviously at Madrid, it was the David Beckham era. And they were hesitant. The fans weren't sure about him. Pretty boy coming in, just takes 3 kicks. But for the first few games, he was putting in the tackles, he was putting in the miles and quickly won over those fans who were doubtful of him. And that's what the supporters want more than anything, isn't it? To put in 100% week in, week out. Yeah, and that is a big problem that the fans are having now with this team. And it's going to take a lot than just a couple of results to win them over.
Yeah, Madrid fans want 2 things. They want trophies and they want effort. It's not about a style of play, a philosophy like Barca might have, but you want to win things and you want to see that the players are working hard. And we've seen that time and time again. Some really popular players at the Bernabeu aren't always the superstars. They might be, a homegrown academy product who puts in a shift, who works hard, who always gives 100% despite being, a fairly limited player compared to some of his Galactico teammates. And one of the big frustrations around this team, and the reason I think they might be getting whistled again on Sunday in the Rayo game, we saw all those whistles the other day after the Alonso sacking at the Bernabeu, louder than I'd ever heard it being there. I think we can get some more of that at the weekend. Maybe not quite as loud, but still, I think the team is going to sort of feel the frustration of the fans because it's increasingly it's the players that are under the spotlight. Alonso has gone, Arbeloa has come in, they're still not doing it. And there's, I think, more and more of a focus on the players, as well as the club at executive level, as well about decisions that they have taken. But this is about the players. And I think they're going to feel that from the fans. Because, yes, the feeling is we have, albeit there are legitimate discussions about how the players fit together and that the squad and that kind of thing. But we've got talented players and they are not delivering time and time and time again. And yeah, I think we're going to see that from the fans at the weekend.
We said that when Alonso went. They said, that's it. The hiding place is gone.
Yes.
Vinicius Junior can't talk about his management team and his lacking minutes and their complaints. Well, they can if Arbeloa leaves him out, but that will just fall on deaf ears, I think, this time. But all these sort of excuses should have gone, and there's no divine right when you sign for any club, be it Real Madrid or anyone else, that you just pull on the shirt and you go out there and you're one of the most talented players in European football and it's going to happen for you. The first thing you've got to do in any game of football or any sport is work as hard or harder than the opponent. And then the rest of it takes care of itself. And that is, there is a tactical issue at Real Madrid, there is maybe a balance issue, but the biggest, and I think Nedum touched on it, the biggest issue is definitely starting with the attitude and the desire. And if you get that right, you've got half a chance. And if your attitude and desire is not right, your talent alone won't get you over the line. I liken, and I go on about this, but I liken what Eric Garcia is doing at Barcelona to what Real Madrid need in spades and bundles at their place. Eric Garcia, the squad player that nobody wanted, that City let go, that went on loan to Girona, that really wasn't going to play a part, and for whatever reason, injuries, form, what he's done, he'll knock on that door and say, right, boss, where am I playing this week?
Yeah.
Right, Eric, you're playing right back. No problem. Eric, you're playing centre-back. You're playing left-back. Eric, you're playing centre midfield. Frankie de Jong's out. And he goes in, and he has been absolutely brilliant. Not in a sticking out like Rafinha or Lamau or Ferran Torres or Fermin Lopez, but no, just going in, grafting and grinding and filling holes to make sure that he's doing a job for his manager. That's what Real Madrid need. They don't necessarily need the big stars. They need people that are going to come in and fill these important holes for injuries and problematic areas to allow the bigger players to go and do their stuff. But they also have to work hard, and that is, starting this weekend, all eyes are going to be on them.
To coin a phrase that Craig uses quite often, Nedum, looking at it from a Benfica perspective, what do you do when a big daft goalie goes up?
Oh, right.
Like for that goal, like, as a defender, like how do you handle him? Or do you just think
Who's picking him up?
It's a goalkeeper.
And it's an amazing moment for him, amazing moment for like football itself to see it happen. But yeah, I wouldn't say have 3 players outside of the box. At least one of them make the effort to try and mark him at least.
Only if you're playing Arsenal.
Yeah, yes, well, yes.
And they've got everybody in the 6-yard box.
Yeah.
But it is one of the greatest outs in football when you go to the dressing room and who's picking him up? And everybody goes, well, I had my man, or you told me to mark zonally. But it was, Champions League, story apart, it was a great moment. And obviously, to be able to make Benfica and Mourinho scrape in to, was it the 24th spot?
Absolutely, yeah.
With that goal so late on against his former team, who now we're going to meet again, it was an incredible story. Fair play to the goalie.
Back to the bracket then. Let's just confirm, shall we, how things look. Now, it's weird. We don't really know why. There will be a draw again then after the playoffs to see which of the 2 teams will face the winner on their respective side of the bracket. So in theory, obviously you could have, for example, PSG in action against Barcelona, if that's the way the draw works out. Looking at these other ties, anything else stand out? Is there any other La Liga sides there? I'm just looking. I haven't paid much attention, to be honest.
Atletico Madrid.
Atleti, Alex.
Yeah, Atleti are there, and there is, talk about unrest at Real Madrid, there's unrest at Atleti right now as the transfer window comes to a close and they haven't signed any players in this window. 4 players have left Atleti in January. Not key players, not players that were playing a lot, but 4 players have left and they haven't signed. And there's a big behind-the-scenes kind of division between the coach, Diego Simeone, and Matteo Alemanno, sort of the sporting director who's looking at bringing players in. Simeone's not happy they haven't had those reinforcements. Atleti are up against it because they haven't been playing particularly well either. They also kind of blew it in the Champions League to find a place in the playoffs. And let's see if they can find a way through. Right now, you don't look at Atleti and think this is a team that can compete in the latter stage of the Champions League. And like I say, their squad has been weakened this month. It hasn't gotten stronger.
Anything jump out for you, Nedum?
I just love these UEFA draws, so I'm delighted that they're going to have another one in a couple of weeks' time. Let's just have draws all the way through. Yeah, this is how we do it.
Yeah, exactly. Very exciting indeed.
I know you're going to think I'm stupid here, but Bodo Glimt versus Inter.
Yeah.
Inter are not as strong as they were. A lot of the older guys have either gone or they're carrying a heavier leg now. Not Simeone, what is it?
Inzaghi.
Simeone Inzaghi, that's where it was.
All right.
He's gone, he's in Saudi Arabia. And after beating Man City, as they did, particularly in their neck of the woods over there on that hybrid pitch, that could be a bit of a slippy one for Inter, I have to say.
And then, of course, it could be Manchester City, Real Madrid. They haven't played each other for a while, so that'd be nice to see that again.